Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to keep this very short, but I think what most people really, truly need to know is that we have been under an oppressive and corrupt government in this country since 1972. When the pressure on Mr. Trudeau by the FLQ, that's the Free Liberation People of Quebec, the mafia, and the big banks, and particularly the Auditor General. Now, the Auditor General in that cabinet happened to be the bagman for the alcohol bankers, who are in fact the Canadian mafia. I brought to the attention of the Governor General and the RCMP at that time that a fraud was about, this is 1972, remember. In 1972 I went back to Ottawa and I pointed out to those august people that they were about to engage in one of the biggest financial frauds ever known on the planet. And that is precisely what they did. And if you go to your websites and your emails and you go to the computer essentially, you go to Google, and if you haven't already seen it, look up 12-year-old girl explains the banker's fraud. It's very clear that there would be no serious challenges either to the Aboriginal people and their fair share of the wealth of this country, and there would be no need for taxes. That is where we were in 1972, after the Bank Act had run, which was started in 1934, had run 5 years of war, had built the largest highway ever, practically, had built the biggest commercial fleet, third biggest commercial fleet, and the St. Lawrence Seaway, all of which brought no debt to the Canadian people. After handing the provision of money into the Canadian system, we are now over $800 billion in debt to a bunch of fraudulent overseas bankers who have bought our lives. And it's high time that we gained our lives back. And as that gentleman earlier said, it is high time for this country to wake up and follow the lead, first of all, of Iceland, and that is seize back our financial arrangements, so there at least is a guaranteed annual income for need, so that people, if they feel obliged to spend some time with their children, not to be called into debt when they leave university or even high school. This money fraud must stop. Now then, I'm going to change the tone. What can we do about it? Because that is clearly the issue. For more than 20 years, including going to the Supreme Court of British Columbia to get traction, I've been trying to get an alternative to the corrupted political parties. The only way we can possibly get rid of these people is to have something on the ballot called none of the above. And then what happens? If the Canadian people have woken up enough, what would happen if that got a majority in any riding? Well, I'll tell you, we'll adopt the Aboriginal way of doing business, and there will be men's circles and women's circles meeting separately, seeking accord among themselves so that we can ensure proper gender balance in the affairs of this country. And when they have agreed, and when they've met together in plenary council, men and women circles together, and they have found an accord, then it must be put to the people in referendum for the authority. Now, I've been trying to do that for 20 years. As we see here today, they're really a very hardcore of people that want serious change. But what I'm suggesting to all of you is, if you have the opportunity, meet with your friends in men's circles and women's circles initially. Find an accord whether or not we should in fact insist that the Bank of Canada begins to play its proper role in this government and get rid of these psychopaths, these ego trippers that want to do nothing better than oppress and bring about people into economic slavery. That has gone on long enough. We are not slaves, and we should not become slaves. I'm calling upon Commissioner Bolson, the head of the RCMP, to immediately arrest the Prime Minister, what I like to call the Crime Minister, who's taking us down to a destruction of this planet. Enough is enough is enough. Thank you.